I'm not going to give you my real name or the town where this happened. If you're from there, you'll recognize it anyway. The playground's probably already gone by now, or rebuilt into something brighter with plastic dinosaurs and a cheerful safety sign. Doesn't matter. The shape of it is still in my head like a watermark. That's what I'm trying to get rid of. Most stories like this start with, "I know you won't believe me. I think you will." Because if you're watching this, you already believe in the kind of thing that leaves 3 kids missing from a tiny town and still doesn't make national news. We were too small for that, too quiet, too average. 3 disappearances in 6 years, all of them connected to the same place. The official line was stranger danger, custody disputes, runaways. All the things adults tell themselves when the real explanation is worse than random. They built a fence around the playground after the second one. They added cameras after the third. Didn't help. Not the way they thought it would. I was there for the first 2. The third, I saw the footage. That was enough. I'm 19 now. It started when I was 13, old enough to babysit and young enough to still use the swings when no one was looking. Back then, the playground was just the playground. No haunted reputation, no hushed jokes. No, don't go there after dark, kids. Every town has that one patch of equipment that looks like it's been there since the 80 seconds faded metal, chipped paint, graffiti half scrubbed away. Ours sat behind the elementary school, bordered by a thin strip of trees and a chain-link fence that didn't actually enclose anything. In the daytime, it felt safe. Everything feels safe in the daytime. The first missing kid was named Leo. I won't use his last name. His face has already been printed on enough milk cartons and missing posters. He was 6, small for his age, with that buzz cut a lot of parents give their boys when they don't have time to deal with hair. My mom had agreed to watch him for a few hours while his parents went to some meeting. I was the built-in helper, 13 and desperate to be treated like an adult. "Take him to the playground," Mom said. "Wear him out a little. Stay where there are other people." There were always other people back then. After school crowd, kids from the apartments, tired parents on benches scrolling their phones. That day was bright in the way early fall gets bright, thin sun, cold wind. The sky looked scrubbed clean. You could smell leaves starting to rot under the swings. Leo held my hand for the first block and then yanked away as soon as the playground came into view. "I know the way," he said, already running ahead. "Yeah, I can see that," I called after him, trying to sound casual and not like someone who'd definitely get screamed at if he skinned his knees. He beelined for the old metal structure in the center. It was this ugly hybrid of a castle and a ship, all rust-red bars and sun-faded blue paint. The slide had that dull shine of metal that had burned generations of kids' thighs in the summer. But the kids liked it. From the bench, you could see everything. Swings to the left, the big structure in the middle, smaller plastic stuff off to the side, trees behind, schoolyard beyond, the cracked basketball court to the right, open, visible, safe. I remember sitting down on that bench and convincing myself I looked bored enough to be older. I pulled out my phone, scrolled for a bit, then pocketed it again because the wind made my fingers numb. "Stay where I can see you," I called. "Okay," his voice floated back. He was climbing the side of the structure, hands on the cold rungs of the ladder, little sneakers slipping just slightly on the metal. I watched him until he reached the top, and then turned my attention to the rest of the playground. There were 3 other kids there, 2 girls playing some complicated game under the monkey bars, and a boy digging half-heartedly in the sand, more mud than anything. An older man in a work jacket sat at the opposite bench, looking at absolutely nothing, the way adults do when they've been awake too long. It was normal. I keep coming back to that. There was nothing special about the moment before it went wrong. I heard Leo before I saw him. "Hey," he yelled. "Come up here." I stood, brushing off the back of my jeans, trying not to look like I was actually excited. "You scared already?" I called back, forcing a little teasing into my voice. "No, you are," he yelled. That giggle shout kids have when they think they've won. He vanished behind one of the painted panels on the top level. It had these stupid cutout shapes, stars and circles, and one big jagged monster mouth someone had spray painted with eyes years ago. The paint had peeled, so the monster looked diseased. I walked over, hands shoved in my jacket pockets. The metal stairs clanged under my boots as I climbed, the sound echoing under the structure. "Don't go too close to the edge," I said automatically, the way my mom would have said it. "I'm not," he answered. His voice sounded slightly muffled, like he was behind something or inside something. When I reached the top, the wind felt sharper. It cut through my jacket, through the thin metal railings, carrying that faint smell of wet bark, mulch, and cold air. The platform was empty. I frowned, stepped forward. The space up there wasn't that big a walkway. A little corner with a steering wheel. The top of the slide with its metal lip shining dull in the light. "Leo?" I leaned over the rail, scanning the lower level. "Very funny, dude." No answer. I checked the slide. Empty. I looked down through the slats of the floor to where the sand showed through. Just dark patches where kids had landed. Not 6-year-old boys hiding from babysitters. "Leo? Seriously," I said. "Come out." Nothing. Just the creak of the structure shifting slightly in the wind. The rattle of a swing somewhere behind me. I went down the steps faster this time. The man on the bench had his eyes closed, head tipped back like he was half asleep. The girls under the monkey bars looked up as I passed. Their game paused. "Hey, did you see where that kid went?" I asked them, trying to keep my voice level. They shook their heads in unison. One of them pointed vaguely toward the big structure. "He was up there," she said, "talking to someone." My skin prickled. "To who?" She shrugged. "Dunno." I turned back to the playground. "Leo!" I called, louder this time. Too loud. People looked over. The old man's eyes blinked open, slow and irritated. I checked under the structure. No one. Behind the ladder. Around the back panel where kids like to pretend they were in jail. Nothing but chipped paint and old gum smashed flat on metal. It felt like the world narrowed in, the way it does when you realize you've lost something you're supposed to be in charge of. "He's here," I muttered to myself. "He has to be here." I shouted his name again, voice cracking, and this time the old man stood up. "You lose someone?" he asked. He had that small-town drawl that makes everything sound friendly, even when it isn't. I nodded, swallowing hard. "Little boy. Blue jacket. He was just—" I pointed helplessly at the top of the structure. I was watching him. He was just here. The man scanned the playground with the slow, deliberate gaze of someone used to looking for things. His eyes lingered on the school fence, the gap in the trees, the path that led back toward the street. "Leo!" I yelled again. I could hear the edge of panic in my own voice now. The girls under the monkey bars had gone silent. The boy in the sand stopped digging. The wind picked that moment to die down, so my voice carried farther than I wanted it to. A woman I didn't know came over, phone in hand. "What's wrong?" I told the story again, felt my face heating up, my chest tightening. I kept adding little details, as if the right combination of words would make Leo appear again. He didn't. Within 10 minutes, we had a loose circle of adults, all doing the same thing, calling his name, checking obvious hiding spots, walking to the edge of the trees and back. Someone called the school. Someone else called the police. "It's okay," the woman with the phone said mechanically. "Kids hide. He's probably just messing around." But her eyes said something different. Her eyes were scanning the fence the same way the old man's had. She was counting distances, exits, blind spots. I climbed the structure 3 more times. I crawled under it, for God's sake, knees in the damp mulch, palms scraping rusty bolts. No footprints, no giggles, no small boy holding his breath behind a panel, waiting to jump out and shout boo. He was gone. You know how in true crime shows, they always say, the last person to see them alive was, that's me. I am the end of that sentence. The police came. The tape went up. The playground emptied. They questioned me there on the bench, shivering. My hands, endless static. "How long did you look away? What direction did he run? Did you see anyone else near him?" I told them I heard him. I told them I talked to him. I told them he'd been right there. So close I could hear the grin in his voice. "But you didn't actually see him," the officer said gently. "Not after he went up the structure." I shook my head, shame burning behind my eyes. 13 and already learning the difference between what you know and what you can prove. They reviewed the school's security footage. I found that out later, when the investigation became something you couldn't not hear about in a town our size. They saw Leo and me walking to the playground. They saw him run ahead. They saw him climb the structure. They didn't see him come back down. No one did. For the first year, that's all it was. A nightmare with paperwork, missing posters, candlelight vigils, crying parents on local news. My mom hovering like a ghost in our kitchen, watching me like I might evaporate the same way. But there was one thing I never told anyone. Not then. When I try to remember that day, to really remember it, not the way the cops made me tell it, there's something wrong with the sound. If I close my eyes, I can still hear his voice calling down from the top of the structure, clear as if it's happening right now, in the next room. But underneath it, just for a second, almost too faint to notice, there was something else. Like an echo that didn't quite match. A second voice, half a beat behind his, using the same words. "Hey, come up here." Only the second one sounded like he was still learning how. I didn't go back to the playground for almost a year. I told everyone it was because of what happened to Leo. That was true, but it wasn't all of it. There was something about the feel of that place in my memory that made my skin crawl. Not the way a crime scene does, not blood and police tape fear. More like when you realize a room has one more door than you thought, and you don't know where it leads. The town tried to heal. That's what people do. They patch over reality with routines. They added extra patrols near the school. Parents shared Facebook posts about stranger danger and took turns escorting whole packs of kids to and from the playground. They organized a community watch group and bought matching reflective vests that made them look like guilty highlighters. The posters with Leo's face faded in the sun. People stopped talking about him in the present tense. I kept babysitting. Smaller jobs, closer to home. My mom asked if I was sure. I told her yes, with the kind of stubbornness that breaks inside your teeth. You don't get to stop just because you're scared. That's not how small towns work. Everybody needs everybody else's teenagers. The second time it happened, I was 15. Different family, different kid, same playground. Her name was Madison, 7 years old, gap-toothed, with glitter nail polish on every finger. Her parents had moved to town after Leo went missing, so to them, the story was more urban legend than raw wound. Old news, something tragic that had happened to other people. "It's just for a few hours," her mom said. "She likes the swings. The one by the school is easiest, so we don't have to fight parking at the park." I almost said no. The word rose in my throat like something sour. But my mom was right there. And so was the envelope with some extra cash. And the practical part of my brain whispered, "It's been almost 2 years. Nothing's happened since." They wouldn't still let kids play there if it wasn't safe, right? The sky that day was different. Overcast, low, like a lid pressed down on the town. The air smelled like it might rain, but it never did. Everything stayed in that weird pre-storm tension. Madison skipped the whole way to the playground, talking non-stop. About school, about a girl named Kara who cheated at Foursquare, about a show on TV where the characters turned into wolves. "Do you believe in monsters?" she asked at one point, casual as anything. "Some kinds," I said. She made a face. "Like what?" "Like grown-ups who don't return shopping carts," I said. She giggled, satisfied with the answer, and didn't ask again. By the time we got to the school, my chest was tight, though I tried to tell myself it was just the walking. The chain-link fence rattled as we passed, a metallic whisper that sounded too much like memory. The playground looked the same. That was the worst part. Same faded equipment, same scarred metal castle in the middle. Someone had painted over some of the graffiti, but you could still see its outlines bleeding through like bruises. There was caution tape rolled up and hanging limp from one of the benches, like the ghost of the investigation had never really left. "I want to go on the spinny thing," Madison announced. already veering toward the old metal merry-go-round near the far edge. The merry-go-round had always been my least favorite. It was the old kind chipped paint, rust spots, the kind of thing that probably violated 15 safety codes. It creaked when it moved, that long, low moan of old metal remembering its youth. I sat on the bench closest to it, where I could still see the big structure out of the corner of my eye. I told myself that was why I picked it, not because I wanted it in my peripheral vision at all times, not because I didn't trust it. "Not too fast," I called. "You hurl. Your mom will kill me." "I won't," she said, already climbing on and pushing off with one sneaker. The merry-go-round turned in an uneven circle, like it had a limp. Madison laughed, hair flying out behind her, hands gripping the bar. I took my phone out, checked the time, looked at her, looked at the big structure. There was a kid standing on the top level. For a second, my brain refused to process it. The image slotted itself into a shape I didn't like. Small, blue jacket, buzz cut. I blinked hard. It wasn't Leo. Couldn't be. This kid was a little too tall, for one thing. And there were differences. Shoes, hairline, the way he held himself. But the silhouette, the feeling of him standing up there, one hand on the rail, was close enough to make my stomach lurch. He was facing away from me, looking out over the basketball court. "Hey," I called before I could stop myself. He didn't move. "Hey, kid," I tried again. Madison slowed the merry-go-round with her heels, looking over. "Who you talking to?" The boy on the I started. The platform was empty. No child, no blue jacket, just the chipped paint panel and the top of the slide like an open mouth. "You okay?" Madison asked. "Yeah." My voice came out brittle. "Yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Keep playing." She squinted at me for a second, then shrugged and pushed the merry-go-round again. I stared at the structure. My heart was beating too fast for how little I'd actually done. My palms felt slick. I wiped them on my jeans, annoyed at myself. Seeing ghosts in daylight, seeing what I expected to see. I forced myself to stand, to walk, one step at a time, across the mulch and sand toward the thing I'd been avoiding for 2 years. Every creak of its metal as the wind rocked it made the back of my neck tighten. Every flicker of movement in the shadows underneath made my brain whisper, "It's just a cat. It's just a bird. It's just your imagination." Up close, it was smaller than I remembered. Everything from childhood is. The paint was peeling in long, curling strips. Someone had carved initials into the post nearest the ladder. I grabbed the side rail and felt the cold bite of metal through my skin. For a moment, I just stood there, hand resting on it, like I was making contact with something alive. "Hey," I muttered under my breath, not sure who I was talking to. "I remember you." The wind gusted. The structure gave a long, small groan. Not an answer. Not really. I climbed. The stairs clanged under my weight. I stepped onto the top platform and looked around, heart pounding in my ears. Empty. Of course it was empty. What had I expected? A replay? A small boy frozen in place, waiting for me to arrive this time? From up there, I could see most of the playground. Madison was a pink blur on the merry-go-round. An SUV crawled by on the street beyond the fence. A crow watched from one of the trees, head twitching. Nothing else. And then, just as I was about to go back down, I heard it. A voice. Right next to my ear. Too close. "Hey," it whispered. "Come up here." I froze. Every nerve in my body sparked white. The platform was empty. I was already at the top. There was nowhere else to come up to. My throat closed. I turned my head slowly, the way you do when you're praying the horror is just behind you in your imagination and not in real life. No one there. Just the chipped blue panel with its cutout shapes. The monster mouth painted years ago, eyes faded almost to nothing. The voice hadn't sounded like a kid this time. It sounded like an imitation of a kid. The syllables pushed through the wrong kind of throat. Something trying on the shape of a child's voice and wearing it badly. "Madison," I croaked, the name breaking out of me like a reflex. "Yeah?" Her voice floated up from below. You okay? I shouted. Yeah, annoyed, drawn out. I'm not a baby. The merry-go-round creaked as she shifted her weight. The ordinary noise of it grounded me enough to move. I climbed back down, every step measured, refusing to run. My legs wanted to bolt. The animal part of my brain wanted me to kick off from the platform and hit the ground running and not stop until I was back home, locked in the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. Instead, I walked. Hey, I said when I reached her. My voice sounded wrong, too bright, too brittle. You want to go somewhere else? Park? Maybe? Get ice cream? Her eyes lit up. Can I have 2 scoops? You can have 3, I said. My wallet winced in the back of my head. Just, let's go now, okay? I'll text your mom. It's fine. She studied me for a second, like kids do when they're trying to decide if an adult is lying to them. You're making your freaked out face, she said. I am not, I said automatically. You are, she insisted. Like when we watched that movie and you pretended not to be scared of the clown. I wasn't scared of the clown, I said. You dropped your popcorn. The argument, ridiculous as it was, made something in my chest unclench. I rolled my eyes in theatrical defeat. Fine, whatever. Come on. We left. I didn't look back at the structure. I could feel it behind me, though, the way you can feel eyes on your back even when you've convinced yourself no one is there. 2 days later, Madison went missing. Not with me, not at the playground, not this time. She vanished from her own bed in the night. Her parents told the police she'd been complaining that the boy from the playground wanted to play hide and seek. She'd drawn him at school, blue crayon jacket, spiky hair, big smile. When her mom had asked who it was, Madison had said, "He talks funny, like he's repeating after someone." The police never said that part out loud. I only know because my mom heard it from one of the officers' wives, and my mom told me in a low, tight voice she never used for anything else. They think she just walked out, my mom said. Sleepwalking, maybe. Kids do that. Kids don't make it over a deadbolted door in their sleep, I said. Mom looked at me, and for a second I thought she was going to say the thing we were both thinking. Instead, she said, "Her mother's going to need support," and turned away to bake a casserole. We're good at that here. Baking casseroles instead of acknowledging the hole in the world. No one connected Madison to the playground. Not officially, not loudly. But the parents stopped going. The kids complained. They liked that playground. The newer park by the highway was too shiny, too exposed. The school board held a meeting. Finally, someone suggested what most of us had already thought, but hadn't said. Maybe we should shut it down. People argued about budgets, about liability, about letting fear win. But fear had already won. By the end of that month, the playground was fenced off. The equipment was left to rust behind metal barriers and a laminated sign that said, "Area closed for renovation." Renovation that didn't come for 3 years. By then, there'd been a third child. I didn't see that one happen. I wish I hadn't seen anything connected to it at all. The third kid's name was Aiden, 5 years old. Kindergarten. The kind of little boy who always had a runny nose and one pant leg half tucked into his sock. By the time he vanished, I was 18. I had a part-time job at the gas station off the state road, a shaky plan to maybe take some community college classes, and a permanent knot between my shoulder blades. Aiden's parents said he'd gone missing from the school parking lot after a half-day dismissal. 1 minute he was walking between them, holding his dad's hand. The next, they looked down, and he was gone. The fence around the old playground was only 20 feet from where they'd parked. It didn't make the national news either. We're still too small for that. But a story that has happened 3 times in one town gets heavier with each repetition. You start to feel like you're in the wrong end of a statistic. The school had installed security cameras after Madison. Budget cuts delayed activation for months. They were finally up and running when Aiden went missing. That's the only reason I saw what I saw. The principal called a mandatory assembly a week later. Parents, staff, older students. They filled the gym with metal folding chairs and a smell of stale sweat and floor polish. People talked in low voices. The hum of it made my teeth feel weird. "I don't think you should go," my mom had said that morning. I don't want you seeing anything you can't unsee. I already can't unsee things, I'd told her. She didn't argue with that. The principal had a laptop plugged into a projector. 2 cops stood near the stage, the same ones from Leo's case. They looked older, more tired. "Thank you all for coming," the principal started, voice wobbling. We wanted to be transparent with the community about what we've found so far." He clicked something on the laptop. The image that blinked onto the pull-down screen made the bottom drop out of my stomach. It was the school parking lot, seen from above. Gray asphalt lined with white. Cars like little toy models. Parents moving between them like wind-up figures. "There," the principal said, pointing to a small shape. "That's Aiden." We watched a grainy figure, tiny hand, in his dad's moving toward a car. Timestamp in the corner, 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 18 seconds. I leaned forward, without meaning to. Every muscle in my body was strung tight. On the screen, Aiden pulled his hand free and darted a step ahead. His dad followed, looking down for his keys. His mom adjusted the strap of her bag. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 21 seconds. Aiden stepped out of frame for half a second, as they passed behind a larger SUV. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 24 seconds. His parents emerged on the other side, alone. Murmurs rolled through the room. Someone swore under their breath. Someone else said, "No way, back it up," a little too loudly. The principal rewound, played it again. Slower. You could see it, frame by frame. Aiden, SUV, empty space. It didn't look real. It looked like someone had just sloppily edited him out. "That's not possible," the woman next to me whispered. Her nails dug crescents into her own arm. "What's that?" someone else said. There. Zoom in." The principal froze the frame. On the left side of the image, right at the edge, was the fence around the old playground. Behind it, the dark skeleton of the rusting structure. The cops exchanged a look. "We already checked the area," one of them said. "There's no sign he went over there. No disturbances. No footprints in the dirt." "Then what are we looking at?" a dad in the front row demanded. His voice shook. "A magic trick?" People laughed. It was a broken sound. The principal swallowed. His eyes flicked to the laptop, then to the officer, then back to us. "There's one more angle," he said, "from the side entrance. I'm only showing this because some of your older kids may hear rumors. We'd rather you see it here, from us. It's important to remember that none of this has been fully explained." Fully explained. That was one way to put it. He clicked. New footage. Grainier. This camera watched the sidewalk that ran along the fence. You could see the corner of the playground in the distance, tilted metal, broken slide, the weirdly empty space around it. The timestamp was the same. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 18 seconds. You couldn't see Aiden here. Just the suggestion of movement between cars. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 21 seconds. Something moved along the inside of the fence. Not a person, not exactly. It was the shape of a child, roughly the right height, but the proportions were wrong. A little too long in the arms, a little too stiff in the way it turned its head. The image quality was too bad to make out details, but the motion was all wrong, like someone trying to move like a kid after only ever seeing kids from far away. It walked along the inside perimeter, parallel to the sidewalk. No one on the outside looked at it. No heads turned. No one flinched. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 22 seconds. The shape stopped. Its head tilted, as if listening. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 24 seconds. It raised one arm. Its hand rested lightly on the chain-link fence. On the other side of that fence, in the parking lot just out of frame in this angle, Aiden disappeared. In the gym, someone started to cry. Not loud, just a choked little sound like something tearing. "What is that?" a voice demanded. "Is this a joke? Is this some kind of edited—" "It's original footage," one of the cops said. His voice had the clipped sound of someone holding himself very carefully together. "We've had it analyzed. There's no evidence of tampering." "So you're telling me some kid thing," the man flailed for words, "walks around a locked playground and my son just vanishes at the exact same second, and you expect me to—" He didn't finish, because the principal had zoomed in one last time. The pixels broke apart into blocks. The shape became distorted, but one detail sharpened in spite of it. The face. It wasn't clear, not really. Blurry, smeared by motion and compression. But the outline of it was wrong. The mouth was too wide, the eyes too far apart, like someone had been given a description of a human child and had tried to recreate it from memory. And around the edges of the blur, flickering in and out of resolution, were others, half-forms, like the after-images you get when you close your eyes too fast. Faded smears of other faces, other silhouettes, trying to fit into the same space. My stomach churned, because even in that mess of pixels, I recognized something. The tilt of its head, the way it stood just a little too still, the precise height of the top bar of the structure behind it. I remembered being 13. I remembered standing on that top platform, alone, and hearing a voice say, "Hey, come up here." Not a scream, not a threat, an invitation.